Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Austin from Life, Love, and the Pursuit of FI, and I have with me Greg. He waved. You guys can't see that unless you're watching on our YouTube channel. And today we have, I don't want to mess up your name. There are a lot of different pronunciations. I want to say Diana, but I could be wrong.
It's Diana Yáñez.
Diana. How are you doing today, Diana?
Doing well. I'm glad that we figured out our schedules and that we're here today.
Yeah, I am too. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what your background is and what you currently do.
Right. So I'm a certified financial planner. I was a social worker because I love working with people and helping them. But that was I missed numbers, and I was a demographer. Then I missed people because it was too much numbers. And I worked in business analysis for a few years, but I'm very much a do-gooder at heart. I wanted to see people do better. And I made it into financial planning through reading George Kinder's 7 Stages of Money Maturity. And that was part of my own personal finance. I was figuring out my own money. I was figuring out what am I doing for myself? I had paid off my student loans, and I was what am I going to do next? What am I building? What am I doing? And that book was really helpful, and also other resources that I found out online. So I was familiar with FIRE, and I decided to go into financial planning as a profession to just learn more about it and help other people do it.
That's awesome. Was there a specific event in your life that kind of triggered you to want to go into financial planning?
It was that book. That book was really helpful. And I had worked at a broker-dealer, so at an investment firm when I was in college, but I wasn't attracted to the work at the time because it was very much asset gathering, which is cool for some people. Some people, they're just they're salespeople and they're just helping on that side of it. But I personally find investments really, really boring. Even though I like numbers, I'm just diversify your portfolio and then have enough cash on hand. What else are you going to do? I can't make companies do anything. So reading George Kinder's book, The 7 Stages of Money Maturity, I remember reading that and being that sounds great. Yeah, help people align their values with their money. And I also thought no one does that. That's not an actual job. Or you have to be really, you have to have so much money in order for that to even make sense for you to hire someone to do that. What changed was that I met a certified financial planner, and she gave me a brochure from the Certified Financial Planning Board that said, Certified Financial Planning, a great career for women. And I started attending Financial Planning Association meetings. I went for a year. Once a month, I'd go to an event. I'd have informational interviews. I had really cold feet about changing careers again. Because at that point, I had changed not only jobs, but fields 3 times in 3 years. I just couldn't, I felt like Goldilocks, and I was business analysis is good enough. Am I ready to change again? But I was after a year of research.
That's awesome. Would you say that you've always been good with money?
In a way, my earliest money memory, and one of the questions that George Kinder will ask you, and that a lot of financial planners will ask you, is what is your earliest money memory? Your most meaningful early money memory. And mine is going back to visit my family in Mexico. So I am the first one in my family to be born in the U.S. My parents are both born in Mexico, and all of my cousins are born in Mexico. So over the summer, we would get shipped off to my cousins for a month, 6 weeks. And I remember when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, my dad had given me $20. And we went to the little corner store, the little tiendita. Everybody got their candy and their chips, whatever they were going to get. And at the counter, my cousin told me, he's a year older than I am. And he told me, you pay. And I was why? Why do I pay? This is my money. Don't you have your money? And I don't know what I did. I don't remember, but I just remember being what do you mean I pay? It was mine. I'm pretty sure that I paid though, because 10 years later, when I was 17, 18, I was going to see that same cousin again. And I remember I spent all my money before I saw him. I was I'm not going to have other people spend my money. I'm going to spend my own money.
Yeah.
That was really funny. So I'm pretty sure that I paid back then, and I didn't get to eat the candy and like other people's candy and stuff.
Wow.
But what that led me to was to think like I was 8 years old. He was 9. Our siblings were younger, and I wondered like, why do I have money? Why don't they have money? So that was like when I started to understand. That was like one of that was like, how come some people have and some people don't? And I've always been very frugal by nature. I'm just like, okay, this is my money. But that's changed as I've gotten more secure in my earning.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, what would you say? Are you currently self-employed, or do you currently work for a company?
I was self-employed. So I built all the colors, or I'm building all the colors. I've been working on it for a couple of years. And all the colors is meant to give people the knowledge, the skills, and the practices they need to feel confident in their money decisions. The people that I really enjoy working with are people who like they've tried to figure out their money. They like read a book, they listen to a podcast, they built a budget one time, and then like they just don't stick to it. Because every time they go to it, it just feels like overwhelming, it's confusing, they're not really sure who to trust. And I help them just like pause and figure out what it is that they want and how money can be a tool to get there. Right?
That's awesome. Would you say that there's a lot of bad information out there?
There's a lot of information out there. You know, some of it's good, some of it's bad, but just like fun. And like, it's so personal too. It's so personal. That's one of the things that because there are schools of thought of like, here is the right thing to do with money. And as soon as someone tells me here's the right thing to do, I just can't. I'm like, I'm going to do the opposite. Like, why are you telling me what to do? I'm an adult. So there's probably good information. There's bad information. It's just like what's relevant to your situation. What are you building? What are your habits? It's very personal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's your journey.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? How long have you been self-employed?
8 months.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
8 months is a
How's it
long
going?
time.
How's it going so far?
Well, one of the first things I did in order to become self-employed is that I moved to Mexico. So I cut down my cost of living by like 2/3. So right now I'm in Oaxaca, closer to Guatemala than to the U.S.
Gotcha. I visit Mexico a few times a year. I'm actually going in September, but I usually go to Jalisco.
Okay. In Tequila, Jalisco?
Yeah. Or Guadalajara.
Okay. Guanajuato is right next to Guadalajara. That's beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't been there. I've also been to the tourist destinations, but I think it's better in the cities, and like Guadalajara, different parts of Jalisco. It's more authentic, and that like I'm not there to be a tourist. I'm there to like immerse myself in the culture.
Oaxaca is gorgeous. Right now, they just had their town festival. It's called the Guelaguetza. And the Guelaguetza means like the community comes together and like you put the beer, they put the food, this person puts the music, and like we all just have a party. So it's like a community party. And you usually do it because like someone needs to like build a farm or like harvest something, you know. So it's like you all come together and you do it. And they've been doing it now for 90 years here. So it's a 2-week party. It's kind of like Carnaval that they have in New Orleans. This keeps going for 2 weeks. It's more family friendly too, but it's been so much fun. Definitely recommend Oaxaca.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to definitely visit and check it out. Is it like a specific time of year when they do it?
The last 2 weeks of July.
Okay. Every single year?
Not during COVID. So they didn't do it for 2020 and 2021, which means that for 2022, they had a lot of like pent up dance.
Yeah. They're all like, let's do this.
Yeah. And Greg, it looked like you were going to ask a question. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. I absolutely agree. So tell us about your company and, where you plan on seeing yourself take the company to and like what the next steps are for you.
So I had my pilot. So I do group coaching. My idea is that when you want to build a new habit, research shows that the fastest way to build that habit is to join a group of people who are already doing the thing that you want to do. Right? So anybody in the fire community, right, you know that you're doing something different from what you were doing before. And it's hard to like hang out with the same people or only have the same people as you're changing. And that's what the community coaching is about. And I call it bosque money. Bosque means forest in Spanish. And it's just like the idea that like all of us are many trees. And I mean, I can nerd out on trees so hard. So trees are actually all like when you look at a forest, like if you think of the Pacific Northwest, there's actually mushrooms, there's mycelia underneath that connect them all. So they're all communicating with each other. And instead of thinking of a forest as like many trees together, like the forest is actually one organism that connects. There's this beautiful book called Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. So it's about ecology. It's not about money. But in it, she's talking about pecan trees and how they don't bloom every year. They actually bloom when the time is right. So sometimes they, like depending on like how much water there is, how much sunlight there is, and the whole grove of pecan trees. This is like so beautiful. This is like if humans could figure this out, we would have a much better world. But the whole grove of trees, if one section of it gets a lot of sunlight, they'll share it with everybody else. If they get a lot of water, they'll share it with everybody else. And they're doing it for actual group preservation because when they bloom, when they give off pecans, they have to give them all at the same time. I don't remember exactly why. I hope that Robin Wall Kimmerer listens to this and like emails me and reminds me what section of the book it's in. That would be awesome. But it's like they all have to bloom at the same time so that the squirrels or whatever little animals it was will eat them all at the same time and then be able to go and like there's something about it, like they all kind of had to do it at the same time. You know, it's like if you show up to a party and like one person shows up the last week of January and one person shows up the last week of, you're not gonna get anywhere, right? So this is like pecan trees are very community oriented. And that's what made me call it bosque money, forest money. But I also talk a lot about, so again, if you go back to like my ideal client is someone who's like nervous around money, I really soften it. And I bring in like other examples of how money is done so that people then personalize it. Like I can give you a roadmap. I can tell you like, here's what you should be doing. But it doesn't matter. Like you need to personalize it. What actually makes sense for you?
Yeah, that makes sense. How did you come up with your company name, All the Colors? Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, there's a story behind everything. Like everything is very like picked, or there was something that made me laugh or smile or that like warmed my heart. But for All the Colors, one of my friends was going through a hard time and I was going to spend a weekend with her. And when I got to her house, she looked really gray. She kind of looked like washed out. She was just stressed out and busy and kind of like numbed out. So I think we drank and we danced and we went shopping and like we ate, and we talked. And I think we cried, like we did everything. But by the end of those 3 days, she like had all her colors back. You know, like nothing had really changed in her life and her situation, other than maybe just like letting stuff out. But I love that. I love it when people come to me and like their money makes them feel gray. And then we move into all the colors. At the same time, though, sometimes you have to feel gray. Like if you're just not happy with your job, you're not happy with your situation, you get to like feel gray and like feel the intensity of that dislike for it, because then you'll move on. You know, it's like, yeah, so much of the time we get stuck in cycles that we don't enjoy because we're avoiding them as opposed to going through them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And yeah, I think the more we just face the problems in front of us, then it'll be easier to get through it, right? But the longer we bottle stuff up and suppress it, then it's going to come out at the worst times possible. Mm-hmm. And I really think that talking about it helps. But so you're a CFP. Did you have any struggles studying for the CFP exam, or your journey while getting your CFP? Was there any struggles that you remember?
I'm a really good test taker. So I have a colleague, someone I really respect, who had years of experience, and they struggled passing the CFP exam, not because they weren't a good financial planner, certified financial planner, because they were already doing it. They were just not a good test taker, And one of the things that I did, though, I quit my job and I moved to Costa Rica, where I volunteered for like 20 hours a week, maybe like 15 hours a week. And for like a year, I studied 20 hours. I like watched TV the rest of the time. Like I just had nothing else to do but like get ready for the CFP exam. And I remember thinking, like, if I don't pass this thing, I'm never going to pass it, because like here I am with like no stress in my life taking this exam. So I'm a good test taker. I really set up my life so that I would do it well. But when I was studying for because it was like a 3-year period, right? There's like 2 years where you're studying, about 2.5 years where I was studying, and then 6 months of prep. For the 6 months of prep, I really like made sure that I had nothing else going on in my life. But I do remember when I was working and studying for it, it was like getting up at 4 a.m. and like being super structured. That was exhausting. It was worth it though. I'm glad that I have it.
Well, yeah, getting up at 4 a.m. is never an easy task to do. So do you have a lot of friends who come to you for advice in this space?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Gotcha.
Definitely. And I will meet with them. That's like my really, really close friends. Maybe I won't, but sometimes I do. I'm kind of like, okay, like there's a point where like you need to start paying me, because this is not like, you can't just go to a masseuse and like get free massages all the time or go to so I get to have that conversation with them too. But yeah, I do have friends that come to me. I have a lot of friends of friends that come to me, and family of friends and friends of my family. And yeah. What about you? Like, do you guys
What
have
would you say is,
questions? Like, can I turn the tables on you and like
go
ask
ahead.
you questions?
Yeah, feel free to ask all those questions.
What about your early money memories? You guys thought of that?
Greg, you can go ahead and do this one first.
You don't have to, too. Like, any question that I ask, if you're not comfortable. Your first memory of like understanding what money was, like when did you like, oh, this is money, this isn't just paper? Like, is there like an instance that happened there?
Um, so throughout the elementary, my schooling years, right, I used to get, paid for report cards. So if I had a straight A, I would get like, I think like $20 for an A, $5 for a B, nothing for any like C's and D's, right? So first report card, I had all A's. So I was, with like 6 classes. It's like $100 some. I'm like, yes, I'm getting paid, and there was a new video game I wanted out, and I just knew that once I got this report card, I was going to get it. And then, for whatever reason, my mom was like, sorry, I don't have the money for you right now. So I was so upset. And then, like a week later, uh, she handed it to me, and I was like, yes, let's go to the store. And that was like when I bought my first video game with my own money. That's when I was like, I like this feeling. You put in the hard work for grades, you get money, and then I can buy whatever I want with it.
That Do you feel like that's how you continue to do your money? Like you would work hard, you'd get it, and then you'd spend it? Or like, was there ever a pause? Or
A lot of times I would work hard, get the money, and then I would spend my mom's money anyway. It's like you go to the store and you ask your parents for something, and they're like, "Oh, you have money?" And then you pull the, "Oh, left my wallet at home. I don't have any money. Sorry." And I did that enough times that I built up a nice little savings. And then my mom actually took me to open up a savings account at the local credit union. So that's where I started putting all my money for like chores and report cards going forward. So I never spent any of my own money after that.
Once you that's extreme. It's like, because I thought you kind of had the vibe of like, because the first number you say, it's like, I got this money, then I spent all of it, right? So like, was that a pattern that kept going? You're like, no, later on, when you started saving, you're like, you only saved.
Yep. I figured out early to spend other people's money.
Okay, that's a good one too. Yeah, that's a good strategy.
For me, I remember my earliest memory is like I was in elementary school. They would have like those book fairs, and I'd always want to like get a book. I just never had the money for it. And so what I would do is like back then they had like those newspaper stands like everywhere, like grocery stores or whatever. I would like go into like those newspaper stands and find like quarters and start collecting them because people would leave change in there for like the next person, and I would just start collecting it. Like I would find like dollars and like 4 quarters and stuff like that just from people leaving change behind. And I'm like, that is mine now. Like just taking it, being like, yep, I'm gonna get this book. But yeah, just always working towards a goal. And I don't think I've ever not been working for a goal with my money, which, most FIRE people are working for that work optional life. And yeah, if I didn't know about this, I would probably, I would hate to go another 10 years without knowing about FIRE, because I would feel like I was so behind. And I think really, honestly, the best time to start is now and in the present, because we don't know what's going to happen, but at the same time, right, you got to prepare for the future.
Going back to my favorite subjects, trees, they say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is now.
Yep. Another quote.
I don't know who that one's from.
I think it's Sun Tzu.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. But no, yeah, feel free to keep asking us questions. I like being, this is your podcast now. It's not our podcast, it's yours time. Yeah.
What
all you.
Do I have? Well, that's lovely what you said about FIRE, about learning about FIRE has been life-changing for you. When did you guys find out about FIRE?
I found out probably 2020, like right before everything happened.
For me, I would say it would be about 2018, 2019 when I left the military. Okay. So I was in the Army for 4 years and I was living paycheck to paycheck. It was not sustainable for a 21-year-old. So when I was 21 and I got out, I was just definitely what do people know that I can't figure out, right? What do I have to do to figure out what wealthy individuals know that I can't figure out? So literally, like you said, I started joining Facebook groups of investing and stuff like that. And then I was just very honest with people. I was like, hey, I'm new to the space. I have no clue what I'm doing. Does anyone have any advice of where I can start? And from there, just growing and networking with everyone in the group for so long, it's a great community. I really do believe that your network is your net worth. And the most valuable thing you can ever have in your life is connections with other people. It's not the money. The money will come, but it's honestly the connections with people, because those are the most valuable things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's research. I don't remember the name of the research, but there's some kind of longevity research at Harvard. Forgot my grammar. And they looked at people. They studied people every year. It was men, because it was started in the 1930s, and that's just who they had. And what was the biggest predictor of they looked at what their income, their divorce, they looked at their health, all kinds of different things. And the biggest predictor of a well-lived life, a fulfilled life, a happy life was community, having friendships. And they often talk about, so part of my background is I'm a demographer. So I studied demography, population changes when I was in college. And I worked in that field for a year. But there's research also that like often women tend to live longer than men unless you control for friends. So when men have a lot of friends, the difference is not as much, right? Because that's often like 3 or 4 years. And I should like look up my research before I start quoting it. But I remember when I read that, when I heard that like really, that sends back a message of like building community, having other people that you're like sharing the good and the bad with is really good for us. And we live in a society that can, and I think this happens with the fire population too. Like we live in a society that just like is so focused on achievement and on like individualism, which it has its place, but we can sometimes hurt ourselves. It's much more about like finding the middle way, the balance between like, yes, be yourself, do your own thing, and also like stay connected.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I really like, I would not be where I am today without the help of other people. It's been so powerful and so like, yeah, my life has been 100% better off because of the friends and the community that I've made. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world.
So Greg, for you, when you found out about fire, was there like a specific thing? Was it, because it sounds like for Austin, it was like joining the community that really like helped him stay with it. What was it that helped you stick with it? Was it like your vision of what you're building, or like how do you fall in love with
fire? So when I found out about fire, initially I had always been, I guess, FI-ish. So right out of college, got my first job. At the time, well, one of my close friends is a financial planner, and he always told me like, so he gave me like the blueprint of like save 15%, and you need this account, you need that account. So I had the basics, but then finding out about fire, it just kind of like stepped up my game from doing like the bare minimum just to make it, to make sure that I have a regular retirement, to being able to retire before like 50. So that was really my goal. Just like, all right, I love traveling, so the sooner I can not work and get to explore the world more would be great. And then also the pandemic and not being able to do anything, I was like, all right, this money has to go somewhere. So I just threw it all into my savings and investing. And now seeing it grow so much, I'm like, all right, maybe I should keep doing this.
Yeah, and I mean the stock market's down right now, but if you started investing in 2020, you like had really good timing. I mean, accidentally, it depends on when you started, right? Because I remember March 2020, it plummeted. Our clients were really upset. Like they were just scared, also pandemic. Like that is scary. Market's scary. That's good. That's awesome. And so I've heard you both say travel, and I literally like live in a different country, and I've been a digital nomad for the past 13 months. You guys have any questions on that?
Yeah. What would you say is the best way you got started to being a digital nomad?
So my apartment lease in Philadelphia where I lived before was ending, and I was talking to a mentor. It was like months before that. I think I had mentioned it to him, like the lease is ending. And then like a month later, I was telling him like, once I build my business, I would love to travel. And he asked me like, well, why don't you travel now? And I was like, oh, because my job won't let me. My job is in Philadelphia. I can't travel with a job in Philadelphia. And he's like, well, why not? Like your lease is ending. Why don't you ask them, can I travel for the summer and work virtually? Because I was working virtually. When none of our clients wanted to come into the office and see us. And that's what got me started. Like literally that opportunity, like not having a department, not having rent, like downsizing to just the bare minimum. And I could have downsized more. I thought I was going to go back. And I remember a friend of mine was like, you're not going to go back. Like he knew. He's like, no, once you start traveling, you're not going to go back to Philadelphia. And he was right. I should have downsized more because I had to go back to Philadelphia, get rid of all my stuff. But that got me started. And I just made it easy for myself. Like I'm Mexican, so I have dual citizenship. I speak Spanish. I went to Mexico City because I was curious. Because I was still working, I would stay in places for like 3 weeks. I've been in Oaxaca for a long time. It's been 4 months. It got me started. Like why? And I love it because when I travel, I think when anyone travels, like time expands because everything is different. There's so much stimulation. So like a day can feel like 3. It can be exhausting, right? So learning how to pace yourself, like times of intense travel and times of no travel, has been really helpful for me. And traveling has taught me a lot about like, what do I need right now? Like, what is the self-care thing to do? And also because I don't go back. I mean, I will go back to Philadelphia at the end of the year. Like finding community can be hard, even though I speak the language. So navigating that. I just started using couch surfing, or they have like a hangout feature on there. I highly, highly recommend it. Because it's like I have my own place because I'm working and my clients don't want to see people in the background coming in and out as they're talking about their money. But couch surfing was cool for the hangout feature of like, there's all these people that are going to go to this thing of the Guelaguetza. They're going to go to this mezcal tasting fair. So that way you're not like doing it alone. And that's really helpful. I don't think this is where your question was, but that's kind of where I'm taking it of like, what's been helpful for me as a digital nomad. And a couple of weeks ago, I took a week off from work. Like I'm self-employed and I was like, okay, this week I'm not taking any client appointments unless I think I took like 3 that like I had to do because internet reception was kind of funky. Like I just didn't want to have to rely on it. And I went to the mountains, San Jose del Pacifico. I went to the beach of Mazunte. I went to the bays and the waterfalls near Huatulco. And I think like on the first couple of days, I just slept so much. It was like so much nature and so much sleeping. It was such a good vacation. So it's interesting, like for anyone who's a digital nomad or considering it, like you also need vacations, even though I already live in a place that is a vacation place.
That's awesome. So are you planning on spending a majority of your time in Mexico, or do you plan on moving to multiple countries?
I'm going to move a little faster. So 4 months here was too long, but I'm really glad that I was here for the Guelaguetza. Like that was incredible. And I think I'm going to start following festivals because they're really fun. I think that's how I'm going to start like scheduling my travel. I try to keep my carbon footprint down so I don't fly a lot. I just want to like move slowly from place to place, like a 4-hour bus ride away. Yeah.
Awesome. If you ever get the chance to go to Scotland, they have an amazing festival in the winter, and it's really great. Edinburgh specifically, but yeah, just I also like festivals because you get to like immerse yourself into the culture of like new people and new things, new foods, and just experience stuff you haven't ever experienced before. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like celebrating. Yeah.
Well, Greg, do you have any other questions?
So, since you're a CFP, and usually financial planners don't get like the best rep through the FIRE movement.
They don't like what is the trash they talk about certified financial planners? I don't know about FIRE that much.
Austin has left the chat.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not going to be here for that. We took a very dark turn really quickly. There's a difference. There's a difference between CFPs and financial advisors.
Fiduciary and suitability. Do you guys know those words? Fiduciary and suitability.
Yes, one, you have a fiduciary responsibility for your client to make sure that you act in their best interest. Yep. And yes, one, like, it's always a great question. Should you be using a financial advisor? do you have a fiduciary requirement? Right? Like, are you required by law? And if they say no, bye.
It depends, though. I mean, there are some people that are under the suitability rank, because it's my colleagues too. You know, it's very much person by person. Black and white can become really dark. And Greg, I think you have a question in there. I want to hear what it is.
Well, my question was going to be, how did you feel about like the reputation of financial advisors and planners?
I mean, I think we earned it. When people think about financial advisors, financial services industry, like the most recognized person is Bernie Madoff.
Yeah.
You know,
That's fair.
there's a lot of things people can do wrong when you're taking it. Like I have horror stories from my family. That's actually another reason that I work in this field, because it does get at some point where you need to talk to a professional when you have questions. You're like, and again, the FIRE community is special because you guys really like doing this. There's a lot of people who don't. There's a lot of people who like look at numbers and they're like, get me as far away from this as possible. I want to, like, ostriches. There's a lot of ostriches out there. And those are the ones that I like. I'm very cuddly, you know, like I work with them and like they slowly peek their head out and they get scared and they go back in, and then I help them, I coax them back out. The FIRE community, you guys are, if anything, financial advisors probably don't love the FIRE community because you're not great clients. All you do is question us. It's validators. It's okay.
It's
It's okay. We're not meant to work with each other. That's okay. But for that cousin that you have, that every time you see them, you're badgering about them doing their money wrong, and they just get scared and they don't want to talk to you, have them talk to a financial advisor.
I want to make sure that it is well known that I do not hate CFPs or financial advisors. I'm
You're not going to get hate mail from financial advisors.
I am just putting that out there, that we invited her on the show knowing very well that she's a CFP. Very, very well. We had enough time to understand that she was a CFP.
I looked at my website and it says CFP right after my name. It says it right there on my name. I think also the fact that I was recommended by a comedian helped, right?
Just a little bit. But funny enough, I didn't know that she's a comedian. I haven't gotten to see the Insta live story yet of you guys.
Oh my God. So I don't know if I want to give this away, but like it's hilarious, and it's very much like a woman's point of view on money. And she used to be a professional cuddler, and what she got offered in payment in exchange for a hand job is hilarious. That's the first 10 minutes.
Nice. We're just going right to midnight here. Awesome. Wow. Yeah, I'm now gonna have to that is exactly what I'm about to go listen to right after this. Because now I'm curious. You've piqued the curiosity.
And I did that on purpose. You know, I know how to sell my Instagram lives. Over the 10 minutes of what have you gotten offered in payment for hand jobs?
Yeah, that's fair. Now, yeah. All right, I'm about to go listen to this now.
Let me finish with my talking points before you guys move on to go listen.
Perfect.
So one of the things that I always tell people, or that I love to share with people, and I think I've said it here in some way, but it's really important that we own our agency in money, that we own our power. And that's one thing that I really respect about the FIRE community, is that you guys are actually saying we're not just consumers. We get to decide to live our life differently. I think Mr. Money Mustache at some point has talked about that, about how FIRE is also a way to help people question what society might tell us is the way to live life, so that we start to listen to ourselves more. And one of the books that actually was a turning point for me, that I hate to admit it because the book is so corny and it's such a bro book, but the 4-Hour Workweek. Towards the end of that book, Tim Ferriss talks about once you've seen all the beaches, once you've hiked all the waterfalls, once you've gone drunk at every festival, what are you doing then? And I remember sitting with that question and thinking, what am I? Because I love doing stuff. I like helping people. For me, just lounging around on a beach, it was wonderful to do it. But after 3 days, I was okay, let me go somewhere else. Let me go do something else. Right. So it's really important that we own our power with money, so that I believe that it's just a tool. Having money be the end goal itself can distort us. right? The end goal is like a happy Austin, a happy Greg, a happy Deanna. Like that is what I believe the end goal is. It's just like for you to live your life fully. It's not to have a ton of money or to like never work. Like what makes you happy? And it's really, really important for like historically oppressed identities to own our power with money, right? If you're a woman, you're BIPOC, LGBTQ, differently abled, it's really important that you feel confident asking questions, especially because the financial services industry has a well-earned bad reputation.
Yeah, it does. Diane, Deanna, do you have any questions for Greg or I?
Any other questions?
Or talking points that you would like to go over? Because we want to make sure.
You guys are funny though. I remember listening to the first couple of episodes and I was like, okay, I can have a conversation with them.
Yeah, our first few episodes, especially with like Peter coming on, that was definitely like we weren't prepared for what Peter was about to do.
I didn't heard that one. What happens in that one? Like pique my interest in that one.
Oh, yeah, that yeah, he talks about investing in like strip clubs, I think, and like we just go down a very dark
Investing
hole. Investing in strip clubs.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. We go down a very dark hole really quickly, and we are very happy keeping it PG to our PG-13, I say, to an extent. Sometimes we'll get a little past PG-13, but that's okay. You gotta have fun in life, right? What's the point of it if you can't have fun?
To be the happy version of you, whatever that. I mean, there are things that you should not be doing. There is black and white things around. Like, yeah, do not do that, or
yeah, or don't say that.
Yeah, there are things just to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to tread carefully around.
I guess my question is like, once you guys are, what is it? What are you retiring to? Right, you're retiring early, but what are you retiring to?
Great question, actually, and we're on it. Like this is one of the biggest reasons that I and Greg and I have decided to like create this podcast. Right, is for that sole purpose is we're gonna have a lot of free time on our hands once we hit 5, right? And what better way to like help other people than by interviewing professionals and people who have been on the path so that we can help other people. And, our goal is to not monetize this. That is our current plan. But it's to just give back to, like, the community and to, like, other people who need it.
Yeah.
So retiring into a hobby, right? Mm-hmm. And that is our podcast. Greg's like, no, we're going to monetize this. Give it 2 weeks. We're going.
I'm fine with not monetizing it. But other than travel, my plan is to just spend my time with friends and family.
Yeah, I like that. Going off, exploring, coming back. I would love to be able to take my family to that could change. The one thing I would change about Oaxaca is like I wish I could fly people in for the weekend, or that I could fly people in for dinner. Like that. I cannot wait for teleportation, or whatever it is that's going to happen, where like they'll just appear there without having like a bad carbon footprint. That would be great.
Well, if you can ever figure out teleportation, you let us know. We'll come visit, and then you can show us around. I'll be like, $900 saved on a plane ticket? All right, like, let's go.
Yeah, you might get canceled for teleportation. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. But, it's a 50-50 chance, right? You got to just take some risks in life.
What makes you happy, right?
Yeah, right. Dying and teleportation. That sounds like a good way to go.
And I think that awesome. So the last thing I just want to share with everybody is if anybody wants to work with me, or if like the cousin that you keep hounding about fire who looks really scared, you can send them to me. So my website is allthecolors.net for network. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I do the community coaching, Go Skim Money. I'm actually having the next cohort registration opens the last week of August. Early registration will be the last week of August, first week of September. It'll start in October. I haven't decided the date yet. So that's the community program. I also host workshops, and I have one that might be interesting for FIRE. I haven't Asked Me Anything available on the fourth Monday of the month, right? So I think it's from 1 to 2 p.m. Central. If you have a question related to anything like technical, you can come and ask, or like if you have a question around anything, you can come and ask the certified financial planner, right? So it's drop-in, it's open, and the fee is sliding scale depending on your net worth and your income and any oppressed identities that you hold. So social justice is really important to me. I also take 5 one-on-one clients at a time. Sorry, like motorcycles, fireworks, it's all happening outside. But yeah,
That's
I
okay.
also have like limited one-on-one engagements.
That's awesome. And we will make sure to include all of your links below. Please make sure you give it to us so that we can put it on our Facebook posts. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, wonderful to meet you both.
It was absolutely our pleasure. And this has been another episode. There's been another episode of Life, Love, and Pursuit of FI with
Greg Gaskin
and Austin, as well as Deanna. I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Well, we hope everyone has a great rest of your night.
Bye.